Welcome back to The Explainer, educators. Today, we are diving into the mechanics of CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning. If you've ever hit a wall trying to keep your students engaged while juggling two concepts at once, well, you're in exactly the right place.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll decode the CILL approach. Second, we'll look at the benefits and challenges. Third, COIL's 4Cs curriculum. Then, we navigate Bloom's taxonomy. And finally, we'll apply the SWBAT framework.
All right, Section 1, Decoding the CLIL approach, what it is and what it isn't.
So, CLIL, it stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. At its absolute core, it's an approach where your students are learning a subject, like, say, science, and a second language at the exact same time. Think about it. If you're teaching science in English to non-native speakers, they aren't just memorizing the scientific method. They are simultaneously picking up highly relevant vocabulary and language skills right alongside that content. It's a two-for-one deal.
Now, I want you to think of this as a true double-duty setup. CILL requires absolute integration. You are giving equal weight to the subject matter and the new language. Listen, it is not about simplifying your content, and it's definitely not just reteaching something your students already know, just translated. No way. A CLIL class really only hits the mark when both that complex subject matter and the new language are genuinely learned together.
Moving on to Section 2, the benefits and challenges. Basically, why we do it and what you need to watch out for.
A lot of teachers find that CLIL creates this incredibly natural learning context. When you teach a subject in a target language, you're giving students a concrete, real-world reason to learn both at the same time. And when they have that real context, their motivation absolutely skyrockets. This is a game changer for those learners who might, normally zone out in a standard language class. Because they actually need the language to understand the cool content, you get this much deeper assimilation through constant recall. Plus, it literally speeds up language acquisition while building up those crucial 21st century skills, stuff like creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration.
But hey, as with any powerful educational tool, there's a catch. As the teacher, you're facing a dual burden here. You have to manage both the subject content and the language structure. If you're primarily a language teacher, well, suddenly you might need to brush up on your history or biology just to teach effectively. It means you have to be hyper-aware in the classroom. You're constantly concept-checking, constantly scaffolding your materials to make absolutely sure that neither the content nor the language gets left behind.
All right, Section 3, COIL's 4Cs curriculum. These are the 4 pillars of a successful CLIL class.
To make this work, there are 4 essential pillars you need to integrate. First up is content. That's your clear progression in knowledge, skills, and the actual understanding of your specific curriculum. Second is communication. Simply put, this is using language to learn while simultaneously learning to use the language, right? Third is cognition. This is all about developing those critical thinking skills that link abstract concepts with concrete language. And finally, culture. This means exposing your students to alternative perspectives, which deepens their awareness of the world and of themselves. Keep these 4 Cs balanced, and I promise you, your CLIL class will absolutely thrive.
Next up, Section 4, Navigating Bloom's taxonomy, or how we scale our learning objectives. Okay, so this taxonomy places educational skills into a hierarchy. It's like a ladder that maps out how tasks scale up in complexity. You start at the very base with lower-order thinking skills, we call those LOTs, and you climb all the way to the peak with higher-order thinking skills, or HOTs. Getting a solid grasp on this hierarchy is absolutely crucial. It's the key to making sure your activities are challenging, but still completely achievable for your students at every single step.
Now the big question is, how do you actually apply this to your daily lesson planning? Well, that's where this awesome cheat sheet of blooming verbs comes in handy. By using specific verbs, you can tie your questions directly to different stages of student understanding. So, for example, if you grab verbs from the lower order column, you might ask something like, hey, can you name 3 different types of jungle animals? Or, can you describe what it's like in the rainforest? Using these specific verbs helps you check exactly how much they remember before you push them up the ladder toward that higher order thinking.
Which brings us to Section 5, applying the SWAPAT framework to build a logical sequence.
SWBAT. It's a fantastic little acronym that simply stands for Students Will Be Able To. It's a super practical framework you use to set clear, actionable objectives and to check progress throughout your lesson. And here's the magic. When you combine SWBAT with those blooming verbs we just talked about, it allows you to build activities that guide your CLIL classes in a really logical, step-by-step flow.
Let's actually see how this builds using a rainforest theme. Notice how we seamlessly climb up Bloom's taxonomy here. We start right at the bottom with a lower order skill. SWBT, students will be able to name 10 different rainforest animals. Easy enough, right? Then we step it up, predict what they eat. Then complete a food chain. Next, we have them categorize the animals. Then boom, we hit higher order thinking. Recommend ways to protect an endangered species. And finally, the highest order skill at the absolute peak, create a brand new habitat for an endangered species. By structuring your lessons exactly like this, you're scaffolding the learning. You're making sure your students are supported at every single step, all while they conquer both the science content and the language at the same time.
So there you have it. You are now equipped with the foundational frameworks to really support your students' dual learning journey. We've covered true integration, Coyle's 4 C's, Bloom's taxonomy, and that step-by-step SWBAT sequence. So my final question to you is this. Now that you have the blueprint in your hands, how are you going to rewrite your very next lesson plan to unlock this kind of potential? Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and as always, happy teaching!